October 4, 1986. A native of Manitoba, Dr. Hersom served as Professor and Dean of the Saskatoon-based College of Education, University of Saskatchewan, for 5 years before coming to the Mount. Dr. Hersom has been active with many professional and learned societies, including UNESCO Status of Women Subcommission, Canadian Research Institute for the Advancement of Women, and the Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council. Dr. Hersom currently serves on the board of the Canadian Education Association and is Vice President of the Canadian Society for the Study of Higher Education. Would you please join me in welcoming Dr. Naomi Hersom.
Thank you very much indeed, Greer, and thank you for your fine welcome to today's rally. I must admit that I was a bit curious to know what a rally for Women's Week and Women's Day might be here at the Mount, and I'm just gradually learning. Certainly it was most entertaining and most impressive to hear Mary and her very talented compositions. Thank you very much indeed. Well, one of the questions that I'm asked frequently by people who've known me in my other life is, what do you do when you are in a university which is dedicated primarily to the education of women? And that question has been asked of me so many times that I've been trying to give it a bit of very serious thought in my answers. I'd like to share with you, though, what my personal reaction is to that when that question is raised with me. In looking back over my own life, I've found that I've had rather a unique experience, which was not intentional. I grew up in Winnipeg, as you've just heard, and one of the things that happened to me was that I went to a high school where there was a principal, admittedly male, who decided that women really learned better if they were in segregated classrooms. Now, this wasn't my choice. I went to the neighborhood high school, and when I got there, we were, for academic classes, in separate classrooms right throughout high school. We shared everything else, but that was where we learned our math and physics and chemistry, as well as our English and social studies and all those other subjects that one takes in high school. So I took it for granted, I suppose, as a high school student, that one participated without question and that one assumed responsibilities as appropriate. After I graduated from university, I began a teaching career. The school to which I was assigned in the Winnipeg School District proved to be a school that was dedicated to the education of girls from kindergarten through to grade 9. Again, it wasn't my choice. It wasn't something that I had deliberately gone after. What it did give me, however, was the opportunity to work with a woman administrator and with women on staff, and to realize what a very special school that was. And I have to say to you, I didn't realize that until after the fact. Now, I was reminded about that as I read the report of a research study that was done recently in the United States. It was done by a person at Ohio State University who looked at the lives of women who had accomplished a great deal, and she had selected 7 of these people to interview in depth to find out what it was that made a difference to them. And one of the things that they said, without exception, was that they had time to themselves and time when they were with groups of people who supported them and groups of women who supported them. They also found that they had a tremendous appetite for reading, that they themselves had a feeling of being different and special, and that someone had taken an interest in them individually to help them maintain their aspirations and to fulfill them. When I read that and some of the other details of the study, and if any of you are interested in it, I can give you the reference. When I read that, I realized that that's what the Mount is trying to do. Perhaps we haven't achieved it in its entirety, but we are trying to give women a place when they can be supported, when they can have opportunities, when they can have the kinds of individual attention that will help to promote your aspirations as women, as individuals. So in answer to the question, Does it make a difference to have a university like Mount Saint Vincent? My answer is yes, it does. And I'm reminded again of a story that they tell about a tourist who was getting lost in the back roads of Vermont, came across a sign, in fact 2 signs pointing in opposite directions, but presumably to the same place. And the tourist turned to a nearby resident and said, "Does it make any difference which road I take?" And the reply was, "Not to me, it doesn't." But my answer to that question is, yes, it does make a difference which road we take, and that it is very important for us to have a university like Mount Saint Vincent University in Canada. About 10 years ago or so, it became very popular to say that one didn't need separate universities or separate schools or separate facilities for women. And so a number of our sister universities in the United States decided to become entirely coeducational. A study has been done of that 10-year period to find out what has happened and to make some comparisons between universities which are primarily for women and those which are coeducational and which women attend. And in order to obtain that evidence, I had to go to some reports that have appeared in the Chronicle of Higher Education, and I've had to depend very heavily on the reports of the experience in the United States, since we in Canada are unique. I simply have to look at what's happened in 110 colleges and universities in the United States, enrolling about 125,000 women, and the comparative studies that have been done with those colleges. This has been from about 1974-75 to the present. The overall conclusion of all of these studies, when they were brought together, was that the strength of women's universities stems from 3 sources. First, that the women report that they've gained a better understanding of themselves as compared to the women who graduated from male-dominated universities. Secondly, women reported that they themselves had developed greater acceptance of their own abilities and aspirations. And I thought of that as Mary sang to us. And thirdly, women reported that it was advantageous for them to attend a women's university in terms of their opportunity to study and to prepare themselves for a career and for a profession. Now, there's some more specific things, and I think I would like to report 9 of these to you in the time we have today. In the period of time from 1975 to the present, it was found that women who graduated from women's colleges and who wished to enter medical college had 2 times to 11 times better chances to be accepted in the college of their choice. This study was done by Tidball and was reported in the Journal of Higher Education in 1985. I don't know how many people present in the room are aspiring to go on into another kind of professional college, and some of you may be looking to that. I thought this was an interesting finding, that in terms of approximately 10 years plus record, this has proved to be the case. Secondly, over a 40-year period, the women's colleges have produced a higher percentage of graduates who go on to complete a doctorate than women who are in other kinds of universities. Thirdly, the percentage of women who are majoring in fields such as chemistry, economics, mathematics, and physics is 2 to 3 times the national average for women in the United States. It would be interesting to know what happens to us here in Canada. I'd like to follow up on that information, and perhaps at a future rally I can share it with you. Fourthly, students who attend the women's colleges are more likely than their counterparts in coeducational universities to attain positions of leadership, to become involved in student government, to develop higher aspirations, and to persist to graduation. These women become more academically involved and interact with faculty frequently, that they show also significant increases in their intellectual self-esteem. To that, I would like to add an anecdotal piece of evidence. When I was invited to come to Mount Saint Vincent University first to look at the campus and to see whether you and I might be interested in getting together, and this was a year ago, September, I concluded my visit by attending the Seton lecture held in this very room, just before I was taken back out to the airport. At the end of the lecture, which was given by Dr. Shannon of Harvard University, the meeting was open to questions. The people who stood and asked the questions were students, for the most part. I listened to the way in which the students of Mount Saint Vincent engaged Dr. Shannon in inquiry, criticism, and intellectual exchange all around. I went away from this campus convinced that something was happening to students here that wasn't happening on campuses where I've worked before. That was a single factor that made me think that I might want to move from Saskatoon to Halifax. I don't know what made Susan Hormiston decide, but we'll find that out afterwards. It's small things, or seemingly small things like that, which are terribly important in our lives, it seems to me, for you as students. Let me add another anecdotal incident. One of the instructors in Mount Saint Vincent was telling me about a mature student who came to the campus very fearful and afraid of becoming a student again, but enrolled in our classes and did well. Said to the instructor, "Oh, well, I did fine here at the Mount, but I'd never make it somewhere else." So the professor arranged for that student to take classes at our sister universities in Halifax, a class at Dow and a class at St. Mary's, to be specific. In both those cases, the student came out at the top of the class and came back to the Mount and said, "Yes, I know, I really can make it." Isn't it too bad that we need all of this support and all of this encouragement? But if that's the case, then I'm glad we have Mount Saint Vincent University here in order to provide that kind of support to women who attend. That brings me to the next point. The studies reported that women's colleges provide the healthiest environments for female students who then become graduates who are sure of themselves, who can think for themselves, and who can challenge ideas. I'd like to commend those people who work with our Women's Studies program, because one of the things that I've noticed is characteristic of the way in which that program has been put together, and the aspirations for the program is just that women will be able to think for themselves and will be able to have good grounds for challenging ideas. The sixth finding from the studies was that women's colleges take women seriously. They ask what's best for women as students. We do try to provide role models in the faculty and in the administration. We try to make sure we nominate honorary degree recipients, that we bring in guest lecturers, that we offer a balance in our leadership, in the influence and power among women and men in faculty, in administration, and as board members. We try to be truly co-educational and not a male-dominated institution. And we believe that in this kind of environment, students can build their confidence, their high aspirations, and this, I believe, is confirmed in the experience of many of you here. Seventh, faculty members in the women's universities state that it is their goal to provide a supportive atmosphere geared to women's needs and encourage women to take leadership roles, to develop that self-confidence, independence, and self-respect that is necessary if we're going to fight the stereotypes and if we're going to find equal opportunity. We can treat, for example, athletics in a way which is appropriate that shows our respect. This is important because the 8th point is that in our culture, in our psychology, we know that we treat girls and boys differently from birth onwards, and teachers are no exception. Teachers do treat women students differently than men students, and we in women's universities, and particularly here at the Mount, want to offset that kind of bias so that women are given a place where they have every opportunity to be equal in treatment, to develop their skills, to develop career contacts among the alumni and friends they make, to find mentors, to be assisted in the job market, and to learn how to balance their private and their career lives. Strong friendships made in a university like this do last throughout one's life and are important. And lastly, programs for women can be introduced in a women's university to meet special needs of older women who are returning to campus, to schedule courses in ways that accommodate the lives of women, to bring or deliver courses to women where they are, and to be sure that we protect mature student entry, which seems to be the need for so many women in our society. Lastly, I would like to emphasize how important it is for us at the Mount to persist in our efforts to include the study of women in all of the disciplines that we offer here, that women's scholarship will be given its rightful place, and that we will continue to redesign courses so that not only will we be offering a curriculum which is appropriate to women and men, but that we will be using those curricula to help our colleagues in other universities to revise their curriculum as well. So the emphasis on scholarship and research cannot be underestimated. It's important for us to join with all of those who are making efforts to help women overcome the specific barriers in the fields of math and science, and to help women who can begin a career and advance in their career. I find that these studies and the results of the research are supportive of the observation and the experience that I've had since coming to Mount Saint Vincent University. When people say to me now, why Mount Saint Vincent University? Why should we support a university like this in Canada? I have no hesitation in saying there are many reasons, and here they are.